This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
I'll call the March 26th meeting to order at... Oh.
But I don't think so.
February is short.
Is it the 26th?
It is.
Oh, okay.
Just the wrong month.
Thank you. February 26th meeting to order at 4:02. Hey, Mark.
Hey. How are you?
Just calling the meeting to order.
How you doing, Kristen? Take notes until Cindy.
Oh, would you please? That would be terrific. Thank you very much.
And then I'd just like to introduce you all to Scott Dreback, who will be taking over for me.
Nice to meet everyone. I understand the need. The fire chief gave me a tour next door earlier today. So. I definitely see it.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And we trust that you will be sitting in on this meeting regularly. Very good, thank you. And we should take a moment to acknowledge Ed's participation, because this is his last meeting, and we thank you for all that you have offered us.
You're very
Ed.
welcome. It's been my pleasure. And then if you'd be so kind as maybe introduce yourselves to Scott. So
Oh.
he knows the names that go with it.
I'm Barry Searle. I'm the Historical Commission's representative on this august board.
Yeah, I'm Mark Darnold. I'm just an at-large member of the Public Safety Committee.
You know me, I think. Select board.
Tino, at-large member. John O'Shea, at-large. Nice to meet you, sir.
And
The tour guide.
Oh, the tour guide.
Charlie,
Yeah,
introduce yourself.
Scott.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And we met Christina, at large.
Introduce the bad pennies to the town before you
That's right.
go.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ed, and welcome, Scott. Open time for the public, seeing none. We'll review the minutes from February 24th. No, have I, for 21st. Has everyone had a chance to read them, or should I give you a few minutes? Okay, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Oh, just in time.
I am. Just start.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second, please.
Is Ian coming?
He's coming in. He's on his way, apparently.
From the church. Yeah, we have a second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
So Chief Fasoli has seconded the motion. All in favor? Okay, moving on, land negotiation update. There are copies here of the letter the response letter that Ed sent to the Labrie brothers. Ed, did you have you had a response from them?
No, Jim was supposed to get back to me today, but as of 15 minutes ago, I had not seen a response.
Okay, so we really have no update, no new information, unless I have no new information to offer. Does anyone else?
What was the topic one more time? I was writing while you were speaking. Oh, this letter. Okay, thank you very much.
All right, and Ed, do you have something to tell us about the appraisal? Any?
Appraisal's been ordered,
Yeah.
so they are starting on that.
Okay, and we can expect it within the 5 to 6 week time frame. All right, now to establish the HVAC, are those the right letters? The heating systems committee. And I'm also wondering about maybe task 7, but first of all, let's get on with the first subcommittee. So I contacted Mark and Barry, and Mark, the two Marks, and everyone has agreed to be on a subcommittee to work directly with the engineers. And I don't know if the engineers are going to be at the meeting today, but if they have information to offer us, we need. I'll alert Jenna and Amy that it will be you four who want an in-depth conversation with the engineers when it comes time for a decision to be made. So thank you for agreeing to do this. We need some help here. and I think it will be to really request something that's more in-depth than what was presented in the PowerPoint is important. And so I was wondering, let's discuss whether it would be a good idea to also establish a task 7 subcommittee to further this. I think we have to, for the report, write a narrative. Is that everyone's impression? We have to write the narrative for the final report, or are we just giving I'm not under the impression that we're just giving the material to HKT to write the narrative. Feedback,
I don't have
please.
the script in front of me of the, contract, the original contract proposal, which they withdrew from. I don't remember.
Well, we took it out of their hands. And we
Yeah,
said we could
yes.
do it.
That's right. So I think we have the freedom to decide what to do with it, and whether it's a narrative necessary or.
No, I think it's to be included in the report. Something is to be included in the report, and I don't think it's just.
Well, we can't just offer the charts.
Doesn't mean anything to anybody.
Okay,
So
right.
I'm going to assume. I'll see if I can pull it up. But-
And we do want to include Mark's suggestion of what the same answers to what we are proposing
Yes.
at this time. So I guess I'm wondering, Chief, you've been doing a lot of work on task 7. I'm wondering if you would be willing, and maybe John too, somebody be willing to pull the information on what the proposal is for and create the chart for that. And we've done so for the present
Right.
stations, right?
Yeah, I can work on that.
And then, I guess as a committee, we should sort of discuss what our end goal is, what kind of chapter or description, fulfillment of our obligation to the final report will be.
Can we go back to why we came up with the idea in the first place of having a task 7? Some of us that were around then.
Yeah, I just think it was just, I think we thought that the public would be interested in seeing that, what other communities had and far as functioning of size. Almost to prove that we were out of step and that we aren't going overboard with our new proposal. I think that was our intent, how it's going to come out. In the final review, I don't know, we were a young committee at that time.
Yes, that's true. And we did shortly thereafter decide that it was a task that we would undertake, our own research, and try to cut that, slim down the budget a little bit.
Christine, I've got the wording here, it doesn't say a lot. So task 7, evaluation of existing facilities, comparison to other communities. HKT is excluding that from their scope of work at the request of the town. Committee will complete any and all work that is required under this task and will produce a final end product documenting their work. Committee shall provide HKT with their end product, which HKT will include in the final study report under task 8 to document the committee's efforts. So that's task 8 is part of the comprehensive final report. So wasn't really defined, and I don't know, I'd go back now to the original thing and see what was in there. So that's what we agreed to, but I'll go back and pull up where we started on this. Maybe before we negotiated it.
Some of us weren't there back in the beginning. You were, I was, you were. I know you weren't, he was.
I know nothing.
So, and you were too, yeah, and Charlie. So I'm agreeing with what Mark Darnell said about, you know, the concept of why we wanted one in the first place, to determine where we are now, what other communities have, and why we're asking for what we're asking for. And therefore, maybe people like this can draw together that data and come up with at least a first draft narrative and let us review it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Doesn't have to be long.
In our original RFP, I think we expanded on that idea, made it into a large, we just expanded that in a paragraph on that. Interesting, yeah, especially probably paragraph. So I don't think we're under a legal obligation, it's our decision if we want to put in the final report, and HKT will insert it. So it's up to us.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, Mark. So we have essentially, with the exception of the proposed facility, we have gathered all the information that we intend to, I think. We are not reaching out any longer to other towns.
I haven't reached out to anyone, though.
So we essentially have the information once the proposed information is put in. So it needs to be, Cindy, you've been consolidating it.
And I don't have my copy of the consolidation. I'm kind of running today a little bit. So the answer is yes, but one question that came up was, do we want to remove Dalton? Wasn't it Dalton?
Dalton and Warren, I think.
Warren.
Like you said, really didn't service. You've got the copies there, yeah.
I had that same question.
Yeah, I think we should remove those two.
I agree with you. We don't want those because they look like we're average. We don't want that. And I think the simplest approach to this is we have the data on the rest of this, just a short paragraph, just reiterating the fact that we need to move forward as things develop in our communities. And that's it. Don't make this any, because the real thing that's going to be the push in my mind is the demonstration of what those two facilities look like currently. And that's going to be done on a different level.
Going back to removing Dalton, I also thought we discussed 2 meetings ago about possibly eliminating some of the items on there. Were they somewhat meaningless?
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of comparatives that might not make sense.
We just, things that specific, but we discussed about maybe removing some of them.
Well, I'm not sure we're going to offer the charts as part of our submission to HKT. I think we'll garner what useful information we can from them.
Can you read the original?
Oh, sure.
I found it. So this was in the original, their original response to the RFQ, I guess, okay? So they understood the purpose of task 7 is not to develop an in-depth existing conditions report, but to demonstrate to the community that the existing police and fire stations have exceeded their useful life and no longer meet the needs of the operations, as well as to show the community examples of new public safety facilities built in neighboring communities for comparison. So there was going to be tours and whatever else, which we've sort of done in past lives. To discuss, let's see, take photographs documenting the existing conditions in the stations and discuss operational and infrastructure deficiencies. And that can be developed into a summary report or PowerPoint that can be used to educate the community. So basically a report or PowerPoint. And here they had narrowed it down to Granby and Williamsburg. I'm not quite sure why, were the comparative ones that were in their proposal back to us the first time around.
We must have given them
Must have, I guess.
those names.
Probably because they were, well, Williamsburg's brand new, basically.
Right.
So maybe, I don't know, but Grandview, just because it's the town we're always compared with, but.
And
And we visited it.
Yeah, so those were the two that they put back in, so we told them we're gonna take responsibility, but all they were planning on is some sort of report that could be put in their bigger report and or a PowerPoint to be used during the town information, education session.
It could be a link on the website, it could be the information session, it could be a handout at town meeting.
Yeah.
Well, Chief Fasoli has said that he would work on the last chart for the new facility, and then is there someone else who might be willing to work with the chief? With Cindy, you have been working on it, but you're going to be gone. So
I can fill out this chart, that's not an issue.
right, but we do need to start working, I would say we should get going on trying to focus in on what our final narrative is going to be to present or to submit to HKT.
I'm not going to be gone for another month, so why don't without the expertise everybody else has here, I can happily try to just do a few paragraphs so people can contribute to a draft.
Okay, all right.
Just
Well, so why don't you, and the
Maybe I can
chief,
work
John,
with
do you
you.
want to work on this too? Okay, so we have, anyone else? We have a subcommittee of 3 at this time, offering to do it. Now, is a vote necessary for these 2 subcommittees to?
Personally don't think so, but.
I don't think we're deputizing them, so.
No, I just want to be,
No, I think,
And you know, I might impose on Chief Illingsworth for specifics regarding the police department, you know, some kind of.
Sure.
The correct language and that sort of thing, you know? Okay. But you don't have to be on the committee, so.
all right, so we'll leave task 7 to you 3, Cindy, for the next month. And,
Okay.
to see where you get, and each time, at each meeting, you can report to us, the committee at large, if you have anything to report. All right, so public engagement. We have about 10 minutes. One thing that crossed my mind is that we've kind of let the talk of the tours slip a little bit. Now, we've got an awful lot of balls in the air for public engagement, the video, and the tours, and the brochure. What else am I missing?
Frequently asked questions,
Yeah,
quiz.
Can we do it all, is my question, and should we prioritize? If we can do it all, great, but the tours put a lot of pressure on you, and we haven't set any, you know, we're setting dates at this point, trying to squeeze everything in. Is it something you still want to try to facilitate? We will have the video essentially demonstrating what you will be showing them in person, and I think it's great to see it in person. It's much more vivid than it is on the screen, but should we keep that as a plan?
I absolutely believe we should.
Okay.
Personally, you know, we did start our program for the tours and the police ride-alongs with citizens in town. Out of that, I think we got 7 interested parties so far to go on tours of the police department. We also take them in a cruiser right along.
And this is part of demonstrating, or is this
just
different?
This is something that we want to do for the police department, but also for this, you know.
Okay, so it's accomplishing two.
Public engagement just for the police department, but also for this committee as well. It will work. It's twofold. It will work both ways. It won't include, we can also do the tours as well, just the regular, have a tour, a night for tours.
Of both facilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you would coordinate so that the tours would be of both facilities. Okay. So I guess we leave that to you to...
When's the timeline? Let's get a timeline down then, so we can make it happen.
Okay, well, let's put it in the time frame with the rest of the things. When do we have the video to present and...
Well, as far as the video goes, I have to come up with, I emailed everyone involved to meet with E-Media, and I got to coordinate a time that works for everybody. It seems like everyone would rather do it in person, which is probably better.
Yeah.
Persons is better. I offered the opportunity to do it via video conference if it wasn't, it couldn't work for certain people, but it seemed like everyone was okay with being in. I think that it's between late this week and I think March 8th is the time frame where we're going to try to meet. I believe that's the time frame that I gave, so people can give us a time. I just got to coordinate this time now. Everyone gave their times. I just now have to coordinate it and pick a time and set it of when they're available. So that we'll be able to get that nailed down within a week.
Are you actually hoping at that time when you next meet to finish the filming?
That meeting is more of likely just a discussion if we can go to finishing it, yes. But I think Jackson from East Hampton Media really needs to understand exactly what we're doing. And through emails and phone conversation, I don't think it's as beneficial as talking in person. There's also for I don't want to speak also for Denise or Jim. So I want them to actually impart their information directly to Jackson so he can get a better feel of what he wants. So that meeting should take place within the next 7 days.
Okay, and then the filming has to be done and then some editing.
Mm-hmm.
So the earliest perhaps is mid-March or so.
I would say so, yes, yes.
We definitely want to have it in time for the public forum. Is that agreed? Okay, so that would be our final deadline. Will we be using it prior to the public forum?
I don't think so. I mean, we put it on the town website, but I don't know at what venue we would utilize it prior to that.
Right.
Well, we talked about if there was like a senior center luncheon, for example, you guys might show up at the luncheon, show the video, or if there's anything at the library, or, I mean, I don't know, there's, depending what's happening, but I would think we wouldn't just do all this effort and just show it at the town meeting.
Yeah.
That doesn't put out the purpose as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
If we want East Hampton Media to keep on running it every day for 2 weeks or something, I mean, at certain hours of the day, or vary the hours of the day, so whoever watches that could.
You mean on 191?
On 191, those that watch
Yeah.
that, but then it would
Yeah.
be posted on our website, access too. But,
Do a link on the town Facebook thing too,
oh, yeah.
to reference it to the cable.
To the town, yeah, to the website.
And to the town website.
So would the public forum be the first showing of it, or should it, as soon as it's done, should we just start making it available, like on Facebook?
I think the more showing you have, the better it is.
If you got it ready, let it out.
Okay, all right, so, I get, so then, that settles that, right, when our deadline for the video. As far as the tours go, those would have to then be at your convenience, and I would say, I think you said you thought at least 2 offerings would be optimal, is that right? 2 different time options for people?
We can do it that way, or we can just do it by appointment too, depending on how many people are interested. So if we you know, inform the public of these tours. Is it easier to do it by appointment? If you're gonna get 10, 15 people, which based on our program that we just instituted through the police department with the ride-alongs, we thought we'd get a little bit more than just 6, right? So, 6 or 7, I think. So we could either do it by appointment, we could maybe try to figure out, I mean, what do you think, Chief?
I would say appointment would be better, you know, that way it kind of lets them decide when they can show up, you know, instead of a set time.
I can make a suggestion that the, like when the cemetery tours happen to the Historical Society, so they'll book an afternoon, and it's like a 3-hour block, but they have maximum there, it's outdoors, so maximum 10 people on a tour for a 20-minute time slot. So depending on how long you think the tours would be,
Yep.
and then how many people are able to crowd in, so maybe it's 4 people for 20 minutes. Or does that do both stations? I don't know. But, I mean, you could just do that and say, like an afternoon, I don't know whether it's I don't know what time, what day of the week, but that seems to work, is all I'm saying, is that you just, you know, you do program it, and people have to sign up ahead of time, so then they get their slot, you know?
I like the idea of having a block of time where people can choose within that block what's convenient.
Yeah.
How do we advertise?
That's what I was
that,
going to ask.
block of time?
How do we get people aware of that, make people aware of that?
We can certainly do it through our social media pages.
Yeah, Facebook.
Facebook.
Put our signs around, the Lions Club, Lions Club.
Okay.
Standard
Get
foods.
up a big signage.
So are
Is the
the,
one in front of the police, fire department, the brick one?
Well, it's just, I don't know what goes in that brick one that we made.
That's mostly just posters. It's not really made for, you know, specific events.
So we've got the Lions Club one down here, we've got the portable ones, Chief, right?
Yes, yes, we
The
do.
portable
Yep.
sign we could put up in some other part of town, and we've got the Mothers Club one up at the Homer Meadow.
A lot of people do watch the select board live.
Boarding in progress.
When you make your announcements, you can.
Yeah, certainly, I mean, yeah, certainly, I mean, you know, any and all ways we can think of, but in terms of getting the word out, I mean, there's a lot of people that actually don't, you know, they go one end of the town or the other, they don't necessarily come down through town hall to see things.
well, so as soon as the two chiefs determine dates, then we can, I think we should start advertising that, or making it.
What does the committee want, when do we want to start them? You know, do we want to start them soon, or do we want to start them a little bit later in the month of March, mid-March?
I'd say start them soon. I mean, you talked about it for months.
I know, I'm just wondering, I don't know, I don't think you're going to get a high turnout, and I hate to see, you know, we have a tour, say, in the next week and a half, and by town meeting,
Yeah.
you know, it's out of their mind, you know?
I'm wondering if, just after the public forum, because people will be attending and learning about the conditions, and seeing the film, and then they have the opportunity to go to see firsthand. That makes some sense to me, to do it, to make them shortly after the forum. And that makes it fresh in their minds for the town meeting too, because that's within a month's time. Just my suggestion, so please counter it. All right, so we'll move on to welcome Janet and Amy. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thanks. Welcome. So we'll let you take over.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Actually, before I do that, I usually have trouble sharing here, and I'm just going to try to do something before I share to see if I can make this a little bit easier. Here we go. There we go. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Okay. So I know we did get the message that, the committee would like to see these presentations ahead of time so that you can kind of let it soak in a little bit before we present, and we will try to do that in the future. And literally, we were finishing up about 15 minutes before the meeting, so I'm sorry we couldn't get it out to you ahead of time this time, but we will, let's see, there we go. Okay, so this is what we have on our agenda for our presentation for you. We're going to talk a little bit about the rough estimate of annual costs, and we've got an update to our design. We could talk about the public information meeting that we've got scheduled and what you want to hear, and then the next steps for the study. So the last time we met with you, the mechanical engineer did a lengthy presentation on different systems that we'd look at, and this is just sort of a summary of what we looked at. And I think he made it clear, hopefully, that the next step when you get into design, we would do a life cycle cost assessment and really hone into what the different costs for this particular building would be in terms of installation and annual operating and maintenance costs. But we did ask them to take a look at other similar projects and based on what they see for averages for other similar projects to give us an idea of what your operations and maintenance costs would be. So the numbers that are on this slide are for the operation and maintenance costs for mechanical and electrical systems. They can add in water as well. If you send them some examples of the current bills from the police and fire stations so that they can get an idea of what your usage is now and what your rates are now, they're happy to take a look at that and add that into the equation. But right now, these numbers are just for mechanical and electrical systems. So for option one, which was the air source hydronic system, they were figuring it would be about $3.30 a square foot every year. And so over the given the size of our building, we're talking about $86,500 a year for operations and maintenance costs for that option. Option two, which was the air source variable flow refrigerant, the VRF system, with the dedicated outdoor air system, that's a little bit less, $2.90 a square foot. So that's about $76,000 a year for mechanical and electrical costs. And then the least expensive is the closed loop geothermal VRF heat system, which is $2.50 a square foot for approximately $65,500 a year. So, and that doesn't take into account the installation costs, because if you remember from what we presented or what they presented last go around, the geothermal system had a much higher upfront installation cost, but it also was offset with some of the credits that you can get. So it's a complicated analysis to really weigh when you're making the final decision for what kind of system you choose. But this gives you sort of an idea of the order of magnitude of what you're looking at for annual operation and maintenance costs. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, well, I would like to interject here just to say that just a few minutes ago, we established a subcommittee of 4 people who will work with who we'd like to have work with the engineers on making decisions about the heating systems.
Okay.
And many of us don't really have much or any knowledge of this. And so we have 4 able members here who would actually like to, at the appropriate time, have a more in-depth conversation with the engineers to make the final decision.
Yeah. So that's great. I think that can probably wait until the next stage of design. So what we're going to do is the engineers are going to put together narratives for each of these different systems so that the cost estimator can price them out as alternates. Basically, we'll pick one of them and do it sort of as the base system, and then we'll have alternates to show the difference in pricing for the different. So when you get the cost estimate, you'll get a big picture for all of these systems, and you can look at it a little more at that point. For the feasibility study, you don't really need to make that decision about what system you want. We introduce the conversation at that point in time just to, give you an idea of what's out there. And sometimes we hear from a town that, oh, we've used that in that system in the school and it's been great, or it hasn't been great. We've had all these problems. And or have you ever thought about such and such system? We're using this in another building and we're really happy with it. And so we get that kind of feedback and we can put that into the initial pricing equation. But if you don't have that sort of experience or those concerns, then these are systems that they use frequently for this type of building and what they would generally recommend that we look at the early stages and price out. So does that make sense?
Yes, it does, but it will affect the the pricing for what we'll be presenting to the requesting of the town residents, right?
Yep.
And if we choose the least expensive on paper, then when we go to the town to ask for money, that becomes part of your final calculation, and we're limited then somewhat.
Somewhat. We should
in the end.
Yeah.
Limited.
Yeah, and it's true. I think we need to see what the cost difference is and how great the cost difference is. When we put together the cost estimate, we'll have our hard construction costs, which come from the cost estimator. And then we put together the total project costs, which includes those hard construction costs, as well as what we call soft costs for a project. And that's things like architectural and engineering fees, legal fees you might have to pay, permitting, things like printing costs, advertising costs, utility company back charges, all those different soft costs. And in that is also contingency for the unknown. And so some of that could cover if you make a different choice going down the road for one of these systems. Some of that contingency might cover that. But I think it's important to sort of see what the cost estimator comes back with and what we're really thinking, are the magnitude of differences between the different systems here.
So we're not going to be choosing amongst these. You're going to just be offering or the engineers are offering, or they'll be coming up with proposals for each, but the committee is not going to select one over the other?
Not at this point in time. You don't have to do that. So they will write a narrative that describes the system and the equipment and a lot of assumptions in it that the cost estimator then can take and use to develop a price for each one of these systems. And then, like you said, depending on what the price is, they may be closer than we think, or they might not be. But ultimately, you'll want to pick a number to include in that funding request. So we'll have to sort of see what the variation is here, and whether that would be covered in some sort of contingency or overall project cost. But you don't have to make a final decision right now because, we're not proceeding with design documents at this point in time. So there's still time to make those choices as long as there's money available to cover you for what you might be interested in.
Yes, I think we understand that. But okay. So will you or the engineers be able to give us any idea of payback time, for instance, for the geothermal?
That's a more complicated thing that comes when they do the life cycle cost assessment. Honestly, they have to do a lot of modeling at that point in time to sort of figure out the efficiency of the system over time and do the calculations. So that usually comes during schematic design that you make that decision.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to move on to sort of where we are in the design. So this again is just the site that we've been looking at. And the civil engineers are working on updating the plans. This is what you have been looking at. They are working on sort of bringing the plans to the next level for the cost estimator. That's what everyone's doing at this point, is targeting our submission to the cost estimator. So we've seen those. And then the floor plan, this is what we've been working on. I don't think we've gotten any feedback from either of the departments. So this, where we stand, is pretty much what you saw at the last meeting as well. For anyone unfamiliar, we've got, let me grab my pointer here. the main entrance for the public right here. The fire department is all the pink spaces with the offices up front, the living quarters in back. The police department is all the blue spaces. Offices are along the perimeter of the building where they have access to light and views. The detention areas in the back here with drive-through sally port and a second bay that is not drive-through for impound or for storage of vehicles. And then the green spaces are all the shared spaces. So that the training room and the fitness room and the administration, toilet rooms, those sorts of things. We do have a layout here for the fire department that works for separating the hot and cold zones and really focusing on the firefighter health to make sure they come in, they get cleaned off, and move through the building. So I don't think there's anything new to report there. What our focus has been on since we last met was working on another elevation option. The feedback that we had heard from all of you was that you wanted to go with a one-story structure with a flat roof to try to save costs, and that you were interested sort of in option B, but something that was a little less urban, something that was a little more sympathetic to historic structures in town and had some more of the vernacular architectural features that you might see. So that's what we've been working on, and we've got another option to show you tonight. So this is a view of the main entry from the northeast. So this is from the public parking area. The main entrance for the public is through this door here. So what we've done in general on this is picked up on some of that rustication that you saw in the last scheme, but we've done it in a much more historic way that you see it used in other historic features. It's sort of an accent in some of the masonry between the windows here, and then really highlighting the main entrance feature here with this base material, which could be a CMU. Could be, we've used some polished CMU blocks that have almost the look of granite. They're quite beautiful, but much lower cost masonry product. So we might look at something like that for this material and highlight the entrance with that, and then brick everywhere else. And then we've got these bands of that CMU material wrapping around the building, wrapping around the heads of the windows, just creating this continuous horizontal line to add some interest to the elevations. This is the view as you come in the entrance drive or from the fire department parking area. You can see we've continued that base material between the doors here to try to create sort of a large grouping of the doors and sort of make it an element of interest. Above the doors, we've broken up the mass with these recessed brick panels. So it's brick, but the brick is just recessed in a little bit to create a little bit of a shadow line. It's a detail that you see on other historic buildings. Again, the banding wrapping around this vertical element on the hose tower. It sort of brings some emphasis, the verticality there. And then this is from the southeast corner. So this is the entrance into the sally port. So you see again, the banding runs all around the building. This blank wall here is where the evidence and property storage rooms are. So there are no windows there. Similarly, this is the garage space adjacent to the sally port. So there are no windows in that space, but we've continued that masonry feature around. And here are the elevations. So this is the north elevation. Again, this is the main entrance into the building. So we've got that base material that wraps all the way around the building, the bands that run around the building, the rustication whenever we have that CMU material that goes up between windows or doors and tries to group them into larger elements to break down the massing. Along this east elevation, again, we've sort of pulled out some of these elements and pushed back other elements here to create some plane changes along that long elevation where all those offices are along the police department. and again, created these groupings for some of them to try to break down the mass and create a little more interest there. And then this, we hadn't shown you sort of the back sides of the building the last time. We wanted to show that to you this time. So this is the south elevation. We're repeating that language that we have in the main entry with bringing this material up a little bit higher, and that highlights the entrance for the employees into the fire department spaces. And then this is the door into the police department spaces over near the detention block. So that sort of emphasizes employee entrance with this feature here. And then this is the side of the apparatus where all the apparatus support spaces are. So the mezzanine is behind this wall. So not really a place where you want to have a lot of windows because you're generally, excuse me, have a lot of storage of stuff along that wall. Excuse me. Nothing that looks very nice from the outside looking in. So we have a blank wall there. It's hard to see in this elevation, but we were repeating those recessed brick panels to create a little bit of a shadow line and a little bit of interest along that elevation without having window openings into the space. So that's what I have for the elevations. Would anybody like to talk about them? I can go back to any of the images and we can discuss.
Are you able, do you have up on this PowerPoint the earlier flat roofed building?
I do.
Would you be willing just to give us a comparison?
I can change the last one to this one.
So this was the last one we showed you. And this one, let me go to the 3D images. I think it's a little bit easier to see what we were doing. So we were trying to create these shadow lines, and at the entrance here, we were recessing the entrance back behind this brick facade with all of the rustication here, and we were sort of doing the same move at the apparatus base here. So we were creating this asymmetric volume with all of the rustication, and then the doors and windows recessed back behind them. You can see that here as well. And so we continued using that rustication, but again, I think it's a little bit more vernacular, a little bit more historic in the way we used it, where this was a little bit more modern. Some people described it as a little more urban. And that's what the elevations looked like last time. We had the bands of windows, a lot of glass here. In what we're showing you today, we're showing more punched window openings, but using that change of materials between the windows to create larger masses for visual interest, but with punched windows, which are more traditional.
And have you reduced the number of windows?
Overall, yeah, we would have fewer windows because we have, the punched windows with some solid material between them.
Okay, so that does affect the brightness of the rooms.
There's still a lot of windows in the rooms. Every window has at least one, if not more, windows in it.
Okay.
I'm not worried about the natural light. These windows are, I think we had them drawn as like 2'8" or 3 feet wide by 6 feet tall or something. So they're good sized windows. And they're, as I say, at least one, if not two, in every room.
Right, for today's presentation, because what's still up on the screen is the old.
Right, yeah, no, for today's presentation, we'll go back here. Yeah. So
do you have an opinion about that, reducing the number of windows?
It's better than the first one.
But I'm wondering about the interior space that you're going to be working in. Does that concern you that there'll be fewer windows?
No, especially with 3 by 6 windows. Those are pretty decent sized windows.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm just looking quickly. I think like this is the fire chief's office with 3 windows and the deputy chief with 2 windows, just to give you an idea of scale. This is the conference room, which has 3 windows on this elevation, and then I think it's these 3 windows on this elevation. So they, they just to give you an idea of scale of what the offices are and what's what kind of light they'd get. I think even the smaller offices, like this is the police captain's office right here. So the police captain has 2 windows. So they have quite a bit of light.
Any other comments?
The second one is attractive.
Yeah, I did version of.
And are you hoping today, Janet and Amy, for us to send you forward with this?
So let me jump. Yes, let me jump to the schedule and we could talk about that. So
let me just ask generally, do you feel that the new option is more in the traditional sense that you were hoping for, or any reaction?
I like the changes. You might not be able to see, I'm close to the television, but Ian Ellingsworth, the police chief, I like the changes you made. I think they meet what I was expecting a lot more.
Okay. All right.
I feel very satisfied with what you're presenting. My opinion all along has been that we need to make sure the interior is the functional and best for our departments. And I think that this looks from the exterior. I'm very satisfied with it.
I think a few of us have said that. I agree with you.
Yeah,
it looks nice. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't want to, I feel, that you, like, usually we get more reaction, and we were hoping that you weren't sitting there going, oh my God, we can't stand anything they've done. But no. Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay. So, I mean, I think everyone should speak up so that they have an idea. If anybody has any objections, they need to hear.
I think it looks very functional from the outside. I don't think it looks like it has any gingerbread on it. It looks extremely functional and serve the purpose, and it's aesthetically pleasing as well.
Yeah, it's streamlined to my eye. And the architectural details, the exterior details are pleasing.
Okay.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Very helpful.
Thank you.
Yep.
So the reason I wanted to jump to the schedule is because this is where we are right now, this meeting to present the final option and the annual cost summary. And we do have to talk about the community meeting, but after this meeting, we're going to go to work putting together the documents for the cost estimate. And we're doing that this week with the goal of giving a package to the cost estimator on Monday. And it takes a couple of weeks in order for him to turn around the cost estimate. So we're planning on meeting with you on March 25th, which is a Monday, to present a cost estimate. So yeah, that's our pressure here. If you did want to make changes to the design, we would have to do that pretty quickly in order to still get the cost estimate done when you need it. So if you are happy with us moving forward with what we're showing, that would be great.
Do we need to make a vote on this? Again, we have to keep in mind that we're not selecting the final design for the building.
Correct.
We are moving forward so that we can present something to the town, and I don't think we should get caught up with particulars.
Right. There's lots of time to make design revisions. What you need to know is what a building of this type will cost. And the only way to do that is to come up with a design. So there's time to make changes to it, but you need to give some information to the cost estimator. And so that's what this really does.
Authorize them to proceed.
Is there a second? I don't know. Did you hear Charlie? He's made a motion to move to authorize you to proceed. A second?
I second it.
All in favor? All right, please.
Elevation B.1, right?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, the new B, is that what it's called? B.1?
Yes.
So please move forward.
Okay. Will
we
do.
will.
Excellent. Okay. Wonderful. So like I said, the next time we'll see you guys is on March 25th to present the cost estimate. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about this community information meeting.
Yes.
We do have that penciled in our calendars for April 10th. And I don't know, it sounds like you guys have been talking about it. And if you want to talk a little bit about what you'd like us to present, some communities want us to sort of present the whole process that we've been involved. Sometimes we slip into a larger presentation that the committee has put together about, the history of the project and all. So let us know what you guys have been talking about, what you're thinking you'd like us to do.
And how long of a presentation? What's the format for it? Is it obviously it's going to be indoors in the evening, I assume. And what it could be so that we can, because it takes us a little bit of time to we want to make sure that we're focused on our work for this and providing you something that's really useful for you. We don't want to, kind of come up with something that we would do. It's really what you want to, what your community has expectations for. And have you heard from people in the community about this project? Are they curious? Anything like that so far?
We've heard from some, yeah.
Okay.
People have asked questions about why we're doing what we're doing, and we need to clarify why decisions have been reached.
Okay.
One of the questions last week, you don't have to repeat the answer, but some people think a Butler building is the answer. Other people think it should be on the site of the current fire station, which is town-owned land, and we have to be prepared to answer that. Some people don't understand all the limitations of our current facilities. There's so many, so we have to be prepared to answer those. Cost, what are we going to do with the buildings if we move to a different site? What are we going to do with the existing buildings? Those are some of the questions that have come up.
Yeah, those are great. I'm pretty understandable. Every single one of them, nothing unusual. So some of it is stuff that we've done and some of it is older information, so.
Yeah.
I think as far as the format for the public presentation, we recently had a senior center process, schematic design feasibility study, and they prepared a nice PowerPoint presentation which was utilized at the public presentation.
Okay.
Sort of the summer format. I'm assuming this is going to follow. I don't know if we could send the HKT the senior center presentation.
Okay, we can take a look at that.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else agrees about the senior center presentation.
Yeah, they were good. And they allowed for questions and answers at the end. They had like a open mic opportunity. People go up and ask questions and people that were, and some of those questions were very informing about what people thought and why they needed answers to the questions. That was senior center one. I wonder if Chief Illingsworth ought to sort of be the opening person. Not only is he co-chair, but he is one of our major public safety, people, experts, and wonderful on the mic. We know that. So.
Well, I honestly think that's the best way to do it because, they don't, when we present, and certainly we've done it both ways, depending on the town expectations. But when your town's folks hear from the end users or the people responsible for making the decisions in the town rather than the architects, it goes over better. It simply does because we look like we're trying to build the biggest building that we can, as if we somehow that makes our job easier, better, or whatever. And I think it really works when they hear from you folks first and foremost, and we provide that technical expertise, backup information, certainly the graphics and things like that. I think that we've heard that's a really positive way to do it. So, but we'll do whatever you need to do, sort of thing. So, okay.
What else comes to my mind? We have gotten together some questions that others in the community have asked. I've actually solicited questions from people to just ask them what they would want to know. I wonder if we should have plants in the audience. I mean, it sounds so negative, but it's not meant to be negative. It's meant to be a more of an interactive thing versus standing there and just kind of lecturing with details. Just, sort of pinpoint some people that are comfortable going up to the mic and asking some questions and then having answers and knowing in advance what the answers are, not being caught off guard. And there'll probably be questions we can't anticipate, but that's just a thought to keep it kind of an interactive, interesting evening.
It's not a bad idea because there are always those people who have a question in their mind too, but they're too shy to get up and ask the question. So, if you have some of those questions that you're going to get and you have, somebody who's willing to stand up and ask them no matter what, that you'll get the information out there.
Yeah, in some studies we have a lot more public interaction opportunities, so you kind of already know some of it going into this kind of a meeting, but this is really your first time putting out your ideas out in front of them. So
we could also have when people come in, we hope there'll be a big turnout. We really do. We had one for the Greenway, the bike path that we hope to build in the next few years, and apparently it was very, very well attended. I wasn't able to be there, but another thing is to maybe as people walk in, we can have little slips of paper and people can write down things, and somebody who's more comfortable reading them out loud could, read some of the questions and also determine if it's already going to be answered in the presentation.
Yep. That's another thing we do all the time. Bring index cards and pencils, and provide that opportunity for people. Because not everyone is going to get up in front of a microphone and speak, period, but they have plenty to say. And they are oftentimes really good things, but people don't feel comfortable in that process. So, we would definitely do that. How many people came to the senior? Did you have a good turnout for that?
We had a good turnout. Certainly the Greenway Committee one was about 150 people.
Oh, wow.
Seniors probably a little bit less than that, but
It was like 85.
yeah, 85 to 100, I'd say, somewhere in there maybe.
Okay, that's great.
That's great.
Right now, I just pulled up the senior center video here briefly. The whole meeting lasted about an hour and 15 minutes.
Okay.
Had about 5 minutes thereabout of an intro by somebody from the Council on Aging first, and then so that might be the chiefs, for example, just to introduce it. But the presentation was done by the firm itself for about looks like around a 20-minute, maybe 25-minute PowerPoint at the most, and then a lot of questions and answers after that. And it was filmed by our local public access TV. It's usually in the school auditorium, large, big room, not great lighting on the screen, so it's sometimes hard to see the PowerPoint because the way the overhead lights are on a pull down screen, but it's doable.
Could we have the PowerPoint ahead of time that night so that could be?
Oh yeah.
No, we should target getting it done a little bit earlier and having you all look at it and see if there's anything you think is missing, anything you want to add to it or change for sure.
Yeah, I would recommend that you guys kind of come up with, an agenda of what you'd want to talk about, and then, Amy and I'll come up with something, and then we can start setting up a slideshow to address each one of those issues and start filling in with the pieces that we know, and then what else we need. Most people will come to this and there's only one slide they're actually interested. Well, there's two slides they're interested in. One, how much does it cost? And two, what is the information for my taxes? And that's usually the two that people just cannot wait to hear. And for good and bad. But we know it's a difficult conversation to have with the community. When was the last time you built a building? What is our debt? What's our debt coming off? How much are we going to be asking? Is it a debt override vote? Et cetera, et cetera. How much my tax is going to go up on a yearly basis for the next 30 years. That's what people really want to know, because most communities are not against the police and fire department and providing them appropriate space after the amount of years they've been living in these spaces. That's usually not the issue. Usually the issue is just comes down to, what's going to cost me personally and the town hall. But, so and it's a legitimate concern, really a serious concern. Anyhow,
Yeah,
yeah.
just to piggyback on that comment about the costs. I think it's probably clear to you that the committee's been very focused on the function and the cost.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And I think it's important if in your presentation you can support the committee's commitment towards that. We're clearly not gluttonous, right? If we were gluttonous, we would have probably gone a different way. And we really are, I think, as a committee, focused on the cost and the functionality of this building.
Okay.
I think that's a key factor. Cost for sure, but also that we focused on function. And we're not looking for bells and whistles.
Yeah.
Right.
I think as Mark said, the gingerbread kind of style, we're looking for function.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we can say that, when we did the programming with you, nothing you asked for was extraordinary. Nothing was beyond what we see other communities like you asking for and needing. There was no gilding the lily that we saw. So we can certainly say that.
And that we're planning for the future, that,
Right.
that this building isn't going to immediately be too small,
Right.
Which we hear in other places. Somebody says, well, how far out in the future are you projecting? And certainly the fire department, the police department need to comment on that. That is part of the presentation, but they need to say, yes, we considered that. Yes, we considered staffing. Yes, we consider going to a more full-time staff. Yes, we can, whatever those pieces. I think that's the future is a big concern to people, because what they'll think of is that, they planned this building, it's going to cost me a lot of money. And, 5 years from now, they're going to come back and ask for more. And so that's what we want to, we want to make it abundantly clear that, you've looked at both of those pieces. That's an important part of the conversation on how programming is done and why we spent a lot of time doing that. I don't know what you'll have as far as tax information. That's up to you. How you want to pull this all together, but I think that's certainly something that you guys got to figure out. We're going to tell you what the number is, but that's about all we can help you with that as far as that goes. So,
and you'll be able to supply those numbers ahead of time so that calculation can take place.
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping to have that cost estimate done, obviously, before the next meeting. And at the same time, we'll develop that, what Amy was talking about, those soft costs, a total project, the words you have to remember is total project cost versus construction cost. So construction cost is brick and mortar, getting it out of the ground and up and standing. And then the soft cost is everything to support that effort, from fees to FF&E, fixtures, furniture, and equipment, to the cost to bring utilities onto the site, to advertise this project for bidding. All that stuff is in the soft cost, and that varies from town to town. What are your legal costs to do this? Some towns have to carry a hefty legal fee, a bunch of money to pay, for the legal work that has to be done for a project. So, we'll work with, and we still have a town manager that I recognized, but is he going to still be there?
We have two town managers. There's two of them here.
Oh, hi.
Want to introduce yourself? I'm Scott Zeback. Going to be taking over for Ed on next week.
Oh, okay. Okay, congratulations and good luck to you. So we'll be hoping to get that information. So that's like an important thing. That's why I want to get this thing started earlier than later. I don't want to wait to the end. I want to guys get plenty of time to think about it, what you want to say, to polish your message. Those questions that have come up are all good ones. I mean, we are going to write something about the what somebody called the Butler Building. The appropriate term for that is a pre-engineered structure.
Thank you, except that wasn't the way the question was asked me. That's why I said it. Thank you.
Yeah. No, we agree. That's what everybody says. But it's actually called a pre-engineered structure, and we'll write about that. We've done pre-engineered structures. We've worked on them. They have pretty extreme limitations. And just as a quick summary, and I'm not going to go into detail with this, but years and years ago, pre-engineered structures were apparently cheaper to build and construct. Engineered within an inch of its life. You couldn't add hang something from a beam. It would deflect at that point. They also used different kinds of insulation, bag insulation that was squeezed between the other structure of purlins and into the building. It was called bag insulation. Those are all illegal to do for buildings now. So you can't do that. Even a pre-engineered building must meet the energy code. Period. So the insulation levels have to be the same. The air barriers have to be the same. All of that has to be the same. So there's none of that savings. And I can tell you that we've had pre-engineered people come in and said they can do it, and then we tell them they have to meet this energy code or this thing, and then we never see them again. They just simply disappear. So most of the pre-engineered companies have come up to that. They know they can't, they have to do it now. But we'll write a little bit about that's a complicated conversation. The other big thing you're going to get here is somebody's going to say, but I know a town, 2 towns over that just built a building, and it costs X dollars. Well, they built the building in 2018, which meant it was designed in 2016. Well, by the time your building gets so you're going to be 9 to 10 years out from that. And so that escalation number is extraordinary. Not to mention every year, but you went through a pandemic, and the pandemic has shot costs up in an extraordinary fashion. We just heard on another project, and not in this, you're part of the state, which may or may not function, change that thing, but they're our traditional, and I think I talked to you about this during our interview, the traditional escalating costs were about 3.5%, maybe up to 3.8%. That was a regular year to year. Cost just went up. Now it's in the 7 to 10% range. So, if you have a project that costs $20 million, if you wait another year, it's going to be minimally 7, upwards of 10%. So we're talking about, upwards of $2 million just going to keep tacking on to a project every year. So that's a really important part of the cost conversation that the community has to be aware of. And that's their choice. They can say, well, we're not going to do it still. Well, that's just fine. And so then you have to figure out how to take care of the buildings you have for a period of time. So that's a big thing that comes up in these meetings as well. And that's a hard one to figure out. So, but we we keep track of escalation year to year. And we have a calculator in our office that we punch those things into, what a building cost this year and what it'll cost next year. And we can give you an idea of what that number is going to be pretty quickly. So, and during the beginning of COVID, numbers were really low. They were really low. People that bid early in the pandemic did well. But about a year into the pandemic, costs rose dramatically, and they haven't come down. So, from the price of steel to the price of insulation, and it wasn't just the cost of the individual product, it was the contraction of the business, less people working, less people producing products out there. So, we had a project where we had insulation under a slab in a fire station, and we needed a certain R value, an insulated value. Well, the companies that made it, they didn't make that anymore because they only had time and resources to make one value. So they made the bigger one because they needed that. And so we had to buy the bigger one, so those kind of things happened across the board that we have to always deal with. So just, it's a little frightening, but it's the reality. And so that's what we have to help people understand as best we can.
Another question that I think that we will need your help addressing is why we didn't choose the site of the present fire station. Fire
station, okay.
Yeah. And you have given us your reasons, you've given us cost. So I think certainly that will come up, and we need a concise and very clear reasoning for the not choosing that site.
Okay.
And I've heard, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just curious, of the two sites that we're combining now, is one of them a purchase site and one a donated site? Or are they both purchase sites?
One's a donated site, one's a purchase site.
Okay. So the latest sliver is the purchase.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. 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 That's what we thought, but I just wanted to make sure, so. Okay.
I would like you to talk just a little bit more about what presentations and public forums you have found to be the most persuasive and impactful. You have already said that you think that information coming from the committee is more important than coming from you. Obviously, we need your input, your expertise. But just talk a little bit more to us, please, so it will help in our planning about different forums that you have had been a participant in.
Amy, you want
Wow.
I'm trying to think of, we've done so many different kinds.
We have.
Yeah.
We've done lots of different kinds. And it sort of depends on the stage, in the project that we do them. I mean, we've had a lot of success with sort of visioning sessions, especially early in a project where, you ask, I don't want to say leading questions, but you pick, 5, 6 questions usually to ask, and then you ask everyone to give you feedback. So like Janet was talking about before, you pass out those index cards, people write down what their thoughts are, and then you quickly summarize them and present, and a conversation usually comes out of that. That's usually done earlier in a project. Then we have some communities where they want to have regular presentations throughout the study. So, you might have a presentation right after you do existing conditions and programming, and you present that. And then right after you do all of the elevation options, you present that. And then finally, you do another presentation with the cost. And then we've had some communities where we've done what you're doing. We sort of present the whole study at a point in time, and all of your work. So I would anticipate that, we would talk, and when I say we, I think I'm talking about all of us. The topics would be your existing conditions, what it's like to work in those stations now, with images or videos or stories about, issues that you have, what the programming is that we've done, the site evaluations that we've done, and then the design and the cost. I just lost my train of thought. We've done cases where we put together we call them pack and go PowerPoint presentations, where we put all that information together in a PowerPoint presentation and then give it to you so that you can go around and present it to, the school committee, to the League of Women Voters, to, folks at the senior center, whoever you think is appropriate to present it to. And then we do the presentation and we give you a little script, or we give you talking points or something so that you can go and do that. Or we've done them certainly in big forums like you have presented. So it really varies so much from community to community and what you think really works. It sounds like you have a history of having these larger forums where a lot of people show up, and this is what you do, and you get good turnouts. Not every community is like that. Sometimes you plan for a meeting like this and you get 5 or 6 people. So if that's what's worked for you in the past, then I think that makes sense for us to do. And then I think it's just what Janet said, you have to make the determination about who's the best messenger for it. we've heard both, where we'd rather hear it from someone from our community because they're really vested, and those designers aren't really vested in us. They don't know us the way you do. And then we've heard the flip side, where we want to hear from the professionals with the expertise and all. So it can really go either way. It's really a judgment call for what you think works best for your community, to get the message out. Or it could be a combination of the two, where we do this big presentation, and then we give you the PowerPoint, and you go around and talk to other folks as you think is appropriate. We also, as you were talking, I was pulling out our proposal because we did own putting together some other materials for you. And again, you can think about what works best for you, but we've done boards before, printed boards with project information and drawings and summary bullet points that then you put in the library, the town hall. I don't know, the transfer station a lot of times is a hot place to put these things. And
swap shops, whatever.
Yeah, wherever it makes sense for you. We can help you do that. Some communities like to do a mailer that they send out. We've done little mailers with a narrative and imagery and all that you can send out to people in your community. There are lots of different ways to get the word out. It's just a question of how you think we can reach the people in Southampton most effectively.
What is your town meeting date? Town meeting date again is
May 7th.
May 7th. So you have a couple weeks. You haven't had a lot of time to it builds, support builds over time, so you have this April 10th day, and you have this May 7th day, and what you do before April 10th and what you do between April 10th and May 7th is also very important, because if you're gonna, and the other question is, what are you asking for at town meeting? That's the big question too. We haven't really talked about that, but that's a big one. Are you asking for the whole enchilada? Are you asking for design funds? What are you asking for? Because that makes a big difference to people too. Because people want to know how all that money is part of soft cost, the next phase for you folks, but what are you asking for us at this point in time? And so you have to decide that as a committee relatively quickly too, because that could change the direction of the presentation as well, or not change it, but certainly direct it. Yeah.
Currently, they have 2 requests in for town meeting, both through capital. One is for, I think it's $580,000 or $585,000 for the acquisition cost plus closing and legal fees for the front commercial lot. And then they have a request in for $3 million for design costs for the project.
So we,
I couldn't hear all of that, Amy. I don't know if you could.
So you're not planning on asking for the whole total project cost, design and construction at this point in time?
That's correct.
Okay. I think that makes a lot of sense. It's a lot of times easier for communities to bite off a little bit and get more information then. You do the study and you get good information, but you end the study and there's still a lot of unknowns. But if you have the design fees and you can take it to the next step, you can do some engineering on the site, you can take the design a little further and get another cost estimate and all that helps. Or even, with $3 million design costs, take it, to construction documents and get a bid so people know exactly what they're buying at town meeting. That can be helpful.
Who is asking the town to allow us to accept the donation of the 4-acre parcel as well.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. The other thing you can do is have an open house. I don't know if you guys have done that for the police and fire station. I mean, that can be really good to have, an open house at the fire station where families come and the kids climb on trucks and people get to see the conditions you're in. And same thing with the police station, kids get in the cruiser and you give them a tour and you see what conditions you're working under. That can be useful.
We plan on tours for sure.
Yeah.
Videos, also videos of a couple people who are town residents touring and sort of commenting about
Yes. Yeah. And when you have them, make sure every truck is in the fire station. Don't move the trucks out. I would recommend, put everything in, because this is the conditions you actually operate in. You don't keep the trucks outside, you keep the trucks inside, you don't, things like that, because then people understand that, what conditions you're working in. And that's important too. And obviously there are sensitive areas that people can't get into, but some general idea of what a space might look like. Certainly your evidence rooms are interesting. And you could talk about, chain of custody and what it means to work in the circumstances you have. And, I don't know how you do that, but those are things that people need to understand, sort of thing. So, okay. I think those are all good ideas.
We got something else here.
Amy, I mean, you had mentioned, just to follow up with, what you had mentioned about, developing some boards and those kinds of things. I think we need to do those sooner rather than later. And I don't know where that fits in the task or the schedule that we have planned out together between now and the end of March. But having some boards, there's a lot of people that, don't necessarily follow social media. So having some sort of signage boards, I think, is really important. Like you mentioned or elsewhere, having a couple of those, I think, is crucial. So, how would we go about getting that done next? I mean, that's more in your lap rather than ours, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think we can definitely do it. We can talk a little bit about what you'd want on the boards. I'm just thinking about logistics. If there's there must be a print shop local somewhere. We could even send you PDFs and you could get them printed and mounted right there. That might be the easiest logistically to get it done and get it to you the quickest. But if you don't, we can certainly get that done out here and have them shipped to you. But I mean, I'm thinking, we certainly can put something together with, the summarizing sort of the land that was, or the different sites that were examined and the final design option. We can put the plan and the elevations on a board. We don't have anything for cost yet. That's the one piece that we don't have right now. So I don't know.
But if it's just imagery to get people used to the sites.
Yeah.
And to the site and used to what the building could look like and the scale of the project. I mean, this is it's a bigger building, but you have a big school building an old school building that you use for the police. It's not small. I mean, it's not the same. The scales are very, very different. So, people are going to try to relate this building to something they know, as always an issue in these. Look how big this is, or whatever. So that is, or not. I don't know how they'll react. So that could be one thing that we have to think about. But, if the plans aren't really changing and the elevations aren't really changing right now, or the 3D, we can do those things, that portion of it pretty quickly. We're waiting to get the engineering to see if they're going to have anything change, or we may want that engineering drawing to be very generic. So people don't glom onto, well, they shouldn't put a blah, blah structure here or something like that, which, is being done for pricing purposes, rather. So we'll have to look at that. But those, if there's not any changes, we can look to see what updates we need to do and start thinking about that right away. And you can certainly see them before we print them. Yeah.
Well, I think probably package store could do the printing of them. So if you were to supply the PDFs, I think that we could indeed have them printed here.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can put something together and then we can send it to you, Christina, and you, Chief Illingsworth, just as a draft, and you can give us some feedback, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Sounds terrific.
Okay.
Given, I guess my only question, again, logistically, thinking about where you might display these, does it make sense to have them vertical, horizontal? How big is the space you might put them in?
Yeah.
Probably vertical.
Vertical.
Vertical, okay.
And did you mention something like postcards or a flyer as well? Information, brochure or something?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think if you have like some text you want to put together, we can certainly, if you write something, then we can put together a little layout with some images.
Right. And the question is, for sometimes we've done, folding things, and sometimes it's just been an 8.5 by 11 that's included in a package that goes to the town. It depends on how you want to use it. That's part of it, because then you have postal rates that you have to think about, and we have to lay it out so that when you fold it, you have a place for the postal rates and things like that. So, so think about that, and
We've
then
been discussing a trifold.
a trifold. Okay.
But we might need more than one. I mean, we're working on one.
Yeah.
But we may need something beyond that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But that is what has been discussed, as opposed to an 8.5 by 11.
Okay. Okay. Yep. We've done those, and we've done a variety. So, it really depends. People used to always do trifolds, and then they got away from it, comes and goes. Technology changes, and, people want different things. So,
Deanna, do you have any copies of some of the ones that you've done that maybe you could share with us as a guide?
yeah, we've kind of got something. I can't, I don't know if we, maybe I was just
I'm going to look and see if I can quickly find something. I might not be able to quickly find it. I have an idea for a couple, but
yeah, we try to keep them available for images, but we'll see who finds it, if either one of us finds it.
Well, if you could send it along to us too at a later time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I know I have some paper copies at my desk. I saw them recently on a screen or something in my drawer. So, but
we'll find them and send them. I think it's going to take me longer, certainly, to.
Yeah, and I was thinking of I was thinking of the sandwich boards we did for Weston. They were vertical format, weren't they? They weren't bad. That was a DPW, but it was a vertical format, and had some plans, site plan, floor plans, and I think elevations just in that particular project. But it was nice. And, other towns, I did one town that their town meeting met for 30 days or the whole month, like April or, whatever. And they met, I don't know, 2 nights a week or something for all month. And every night we had to have a presentation of a different nature. So this was sustainability night, and this was new buildings night, and this, sort of thing. And we just kind of revamped the architecture or the boards, to help them, sell their story over the course of the month before it came up for actually, actual vote at town meeting. So, that was a lot of work. But I don't think we're there and things, but we did boards for that too. So, and they were very specific boards, for subject matter. So, okay. All right.
Would the committee like me to look and see the old files if we have the information boards that we used years ago? Not to copy them, but
I have one at the station.
You got one at the station?
Sure, any information.
We're talking about stuff we might already have from past.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when you did the senior center, did they drop off things to people in advance, or did they just have a following?
I don't think they did. Don't recall that. They had 2 different meetings. They had a visioning meeting first, early on in the process, and then they had the big public meeting once the design options were known.
Was one of them outside?
No.
No. I remember seeing something in your. Okay, nothing was outside during COVID or anything.
No.
Okay.
We had a town meeting outdoors. Maybe
okay.
annual town meeting were outdoors during COVID. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I was thinking of that. I know that we did some meetings outdoors and some interesting weather through the course of COVID to keep projects moving, sort of thing. So, okay. So I think, I actually think that this conversation was the most critical conversation of the night. Certainly, getting your approval to get the next stage is certainly important, but this next stage of developing your story in a more comprehensive manner is, I know you guys have been thinking about it and worried about it or whatever, but we need to ramp it up right now to to explain the process and the decision making that was done, and so I think that's what our
Amy and Janet, if it's possible, we're in the process of the company's in the process of making the pamphlets, and they've sought our guidance recently. So if you do have some examples for us, if you can get them to me in the sooner the better, so I can forward them to them just to give them some guidance, that would be very helpful.
Sure.
The mailers that we'd send out.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. We can
see what we got. I can think of.
Yeah. I'll try to find them right after we get off.
Right.
See if I can find them.
Yeah. Okay.
That was all task 3 originally, right? That was all part of task 3, all this communication stuff?
Yep. Yeah, I think it's task 3. Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
What else? What else are you thinking? Worried about?
You mean regarding the forum or
anything? Mostly the forum, but
one question going back to the HVAC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have figures for building them and operation and maintenance. Do you have any relative information on reliability of the various systems?
I don't right now. We could certainly ask the engineers that question.
I think they talked a little bit about it. They geothermal systems have the infrastructure in that has a very long life. We know they talked a little bit about that, so they probably have that information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember, if they spoke specifically about. I mean, they tend not to, they're public project engineers, so they're not doing things that they don't think are going to last. Last thing they want to do is get called back. But I am trying to look.
Yeah, I was just pulling it up too. I mean, they did talk a little bit about when they talked about the annual operations cost, they talked about, some of the systems have more parts and pieces, filters, pumps, and things that have to get changed out every year. But I don't recall any more detail about that. I think we'd have to ask them for a little bit more.
Right.
But I think Janet's right.
Yeah, they did talk about it. And there's been some frightening stories out there about little split systems that are, it's interesting. So I don't think they propose anything like that. It's usually a supplemental stuff, but our supplemental systems are radiant panels and apparatus bay heating and things like that. So.
I mean, I think they talked about the annual maintenance cost for the geothermal and the VRF system were quite close to one another and was a little bit more than the hydronic air source heat pump. And I think that was just because of, like we said, more parts and pieces that have to get maintained every year.
And somebody asked, I can't remember, somebody said, oh, that means there's no ductwork. And they said, no, there's always ductwork that's smaller. So there's things like that. or there's reduced sizes of refrigerant piping on a air source to hydronic or something like that. So I think nothing, mechanical systems don't ever go away. They do have a life to them, like anything you put in a building has to be maintained. If you don't maintain it, you don't maintain it, and that's your choice. But, a rooftop piece of equipment has about a 20-year life to it, is like the average, an engineer would, venture to guess. But if you maintain the filters and check it out and keep things well cared for, then, you get you maximize that equipment's life span. So it's just like a building. Even a brick building needs to be maintained. You've got sealants, you've got all kind of things, roofing materials, all kind of things that need to be looked at. And unfortunately, municipalities don't ever have a huge operating budget to do those things. That's just reality. But so I think you're building a pretty tough building in masonry, though.
A 3-ring binder for monthly, annual tasks, that kind of thing.
Oh, you mean in the end, would they have they'd have an operation and manuals. They would have operation manuals at the end of the project. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's part of a standard.
These fire stations, and then people retire, somebody else moves in, and
oh, yeah.
You're supposed to do X, Y, and Z in April or something.
Oh, yeah. Like we own in our documents training sessions. And we're not talking about 15-minute training session. Oh, here's the on switch, here's the off switch. This is like how you maintain it. And that includes how to maintain this building. And, when do you get a service call and who do you call and what happens when? And then those manuals become part of the documents. So there's usually a physical copy, but there's also on a flash drive nowadays, so that, if you say you would go to a thing where, you have a company coming in to maintain these buildings completely, well, then they'd be responsible for it. That's why we ask questions like, do you have systems that you have in town already? So sometimes we'll say, we only want to go X system because we already have that in 2 or 3 buildings in town and we like it. And we don't pay a lot, and we can add that onto our service agreement with that company. So sometimes we hear that from people, particularly even items like roofing. I think we've asked that question before. So, but people do change. People retire, people move on, you have to know what you got. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about that at all. So
yeah, I wouldn't. I think as part of the construction documents, as Janet said, we usually call for a couple days worth of training, and then we always recommend that owners film it while you're getting trained, so that if there is that change in personnel, there's a video. So people learn differently. Some people like to look at the book with the diagrams and everything, but some people really want that interaction with another human being, and that's what helps to have those videos.
Like we did that in our own office a couple of years somebody ago that had been here that used to do one particular thing. And when he was leaving, I said, oh my God, we filmed him doing it. I can't tell you how many times we watched that film. It's a small thing, but, it's not something that everybody does every day. And it's really helpful to have it on film, it's so easy to do nowadays, it's not a challenge. So.
One more on the communication, if you don't mind. In the proposal, you talked about doing a 3D conceptual design model. Is that something that would be brought to the town meeting, the public meeting rather?
So that's what, I'm just going to share my screen again. That's in the PowerPoint, right. The imagery from that. We've been working on that.
So what you're calling the 3D model it's not a physical model, it's a PowerPoint model. Is that
it's a power, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it's This is the 3D model. We build it in a program called Revit by Autodesk, and that's how we're able to get you these different views.
We may add some vehicles and some lines or some trees or random things like that to help you get in context a little bit, but we haven't designed it from a landscape point of view but you saw one image has a fire truck in it. It's in the rendering right there.
Right there. Yeah.
So we can add some things.
So we can add those to these drawings.
Right. Right. So,
And I'd like to go back to the heating system for a minute. None of the options that you've offered us would be considered net zero. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I don't think you went all.
How would they be classified? Just as high efficiency?
Yeah. Net zero it's not impossible, but it's pretty hard for a public safety building, especially when there's a police department involved, just all of the communications equipment. And of course, you have to dispatch elsewhere. I forgot about that, but it's pretty hard for a public safety building because it's 24/7. It's got a lot of plug loads, a lot of equipment and all. I think it would be quite costly to, put the solar panels on the site in order to really make that happen, to make it net zero. We see it, occasionally in other parts of the country with public safety buildings, I think because the cost of construction is a little less than it is here in Massachusetts. But I haven't seen a net zero public safety building.
I mean, you'd have
Massachusetts,
to have geothermal, solar arrays, maybe other water constructs, for heating hot water. There's a lot of things that would have to go into trying to make it net zero. And even towns that we're demanded of net zero, not on the public safety, but other buildings, they always have to buy credits somewhere to make it work. It's hard. It's really hard and costly, very costly. Yeah. So, and your town hasn't demanded LEED or whatever. I mean, just to meet the energy code, folks, the new energy code is costly, more costly than it was in the past. We always had to meet, code, but the new energy code is even more stringent than before. So,
does add cost.
That does add cost to the project. So, and we have plenty of roofs for solar array, and we have to make them solar ready anyhow. So, if you manage to, be able to afford solar on the roof, certain KW support, whatever, we can, you'll be ready to go on that and ready to add that piece into it.
And even the carports, you can structure it so that they could handle the weight of solar panels in the future if that's where you decided to go with it. So
right.
You can have the infrastructure there.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay.
I don't think so. I think we've had a very productive session. And I don't think we have anything else. If you don't, then.
Okay. We'll send this over to you. We'll send the PowerPoint, and we'll include those two original images. Do you want them tacked on at the end, or do you want them left off? What we had done originally for elevations. Do you want those included in the PowerPoint? You have them from last time, but do you want them included in this one?
In this new PowerPoint, I think we can refer back to the past PowerPoint.
Yeah, I don't want to if people are looking at these things, I don't want them to get confused by seeing them at the end again or something. Okay, so we'll cut them out. Okay, all right. And obviously, if you guys are meeting and you've got ideas, just throw them at us. Put an email together. The more we know, the sooner we know, the more we know, the better we do for you. So, and Amy and I will come up with some concept of how we're going to do this, and we'll let you know what that is as well. So, okay.
Terrific. Yeah, thank you.
All righty.
Okay.
All right. Nice seeing y'all.
Nice seeing you.
Yes.
Thank you.
See you, Ed.
Okay. See you, Ed.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. So moving on, I put next on the agenda was to set the public forum date. They have agreed to April 10th. Have you heard back
So
from
the school was on vacation last week, so
Oh, right.
I didn't get an email last week and I haven't gotten one yet. I imagine, I'll call tomorrow, but sure, just coming back from vacation, they're probably inundated with stuff. So
Right.
I'll call tomorrow specifically, I'll just call instead of email.
Right, and you can be specific about the 10th too.
Yes.
So they agreed that they were both available on the 10th. So if the school is available, we will plan on that as our date.
And what time are we looking for?
Isn't 7 the usual time for
7 seems to be the best time, I think, for people. 6 is a bit early for people to get home
Yeah.
and have a bite to eat before they come out to a meeting, so I think 7 is probably reasonable.
And if it's just an hour and a half,
Yeah.
it's,
Are we gonna have a meeting before that,
well, we have to, oh, before what?
before the forum?
I mean, that night?
Yeah.
The forum's not until 8. I see,
We-
meeting. Yes,
us.
yes. No, I get it now, Charlie.
Okay. Because I look at that like, if we're gonna be putting this together and everything else, we may have some tweaking to do just before that meeting.
Rehearsal.
Yes, rehearsal, we gotta get Aaron up there, Mike, and see how he does.
Okay, so do we need an hour?
But we're gonna need some setup time too.
Yeah.
Well, we should be able to see their PowerPoint ahead of time, right?
Yes, they're gonna
So
be,
we're gonna know that
right.
quite a bit ahead of time, I would hope, as soon as they can give it to us.
Do we have to set up seating and so forth, or?
No.
School usually does it.
Okay, all right, so there's,
But
what's,
if we call a meeting at 6 o'clock, even though the forum's at 7 o'clock, that gives us at least an hour to have a pizza and get ready.
I would think we're gonna have to set up though. It's gonna take us quite a while to set
Yeah, you're gonna
up.
have to set up basically for any more.
Visual displays and.
Visual displays, anything you want to do for, writing the comments or anything like that on boards.
It's not an engagement one, it's a presentation, right? Do we want to have places where people write comments?
Wouldn't hurt, somewhere.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, there's people that won't want to get up and say anything at the mic. And you
Yeah.
want to at least make it available to them to try and
right, well,
to communicate however they're comfortable, right? So
pencils and
Yeah, I mean, whether
index
we have
cards are a great idea, I
cards in a
think.
basket with pencils or something, or.
Yeah.
a
I wonder
flip
if,
chart.
you know,
Have a flip chart, I mean.
Could we meet just like a very brief meeting, an hour the day before, and get things in order, and then use the 10th as a setup day?
What day is the 10th? Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Well, how about if we meet Monday as we usually do, Monday the 8th?
I'll be here, over here.
Well, we have time. We've got
Yes.
more than a month
Right.
to think ahead to
What's
that.
our next scheduled meeting?
Well, that's
Is that what
next on the agenda, I think there. No, that's not next week. Other business. We'll get to that. Are we ready to move on to other business? Is there any other business that can't wait?
No, I'm glad that they reminded us about the communications bit, because that was in task 3.
Yes.
Which was all that, site plan, and we did all that stuff, all the way around it. But we kind of lost sight of the communications thing that they were offering a little bit in terms of those boards, and maybe they didn't offer to print and mail the flyer, I don't think, but they were going to design or help design a flyer, I think. So, anyway. it's
I
good
don't
that
know
we can-
about what they,
Huh?
I don't know about what they did plan on paying postage, from what she
No.
said. No? Okay.
No.
Well, it was good that they brought that up, because we had let it slip our minds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I hope we can get the boards that she's talking about, if we get a couple of them, 2, 3 of them.
Minimally 3. We want to put one in the library, one in the town hall, one in the senior center.
How about the school?
One in
And
the school,
school.
in the lobby of the school, so
And-
maybe 4.
But it sounds like we're doing the printing, and if they go, unless you can get a deal over at the package store, they're not paying for it, so. One at the transfer station, that is a good idea.
It's tough to blow over unless you mount it
Well,
on something.
that's
Usually
gonna be
you
tough.
came up, put them up on the easel, but tack them on the dumpster. right?
It's gonna be a tough one to do over there.
It's just thinking hard. A brochure handing out, yeah, but
Okay.
But I think you can get, like big poster board, and whatever is printed can be, glued
Yeah,
onto
usually
that.
24 by 36.
Yeah,
And they
standard
probably
poster.
have it at the package.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
they can do all that stuff.
Yeah, they
So-
help you laminate the foam board.
He's always reasonably
Yeah,
priced.
that's real-
Yeah.
Laminated foam board, is typically
Yeah.
what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
Right. So we might get an idea just what that might cost without
Mhm.
telling how many, but-
curiosity question,
Huh?
curiosity question. We have, what, 6 sites that we post town warrants at?
Something like that Lucy puts the warrants out at?
Right, but we have 6 sites that post town information. Maybe an 8 by 10 or 8.5 by 11 mini poster to go up there, so that when people look for the town warrants, they'll actually see that too.
They're just gonna send us a PDF, we can print it any size we want to.
Yeah.
Right, but what I'm getting at is that there's another site that people look at to get information. And we already have those sites anyways, because we use them every time we do something for a town meeting.
Sure.
At a certain point, we might want to engage the Gazette too, right? To try to get a newspaper article
Or
about
the
this.
the other one, the reminder.
Right.
They will come out and do an interview.
We always ask.
I forgot who the Gazette person is. They
Maddie
change all the
Fabian.
time.
Maddie Fabian is the Gazette person.
She's great. I've met her. She's great.
All right, schedule next meeting. Shall we, let's see.
So they're coming again on the 25th of March.
Yes.
So do we want one in the interim?
Oh, I definitely think at least one.
Okay.
Probably could.
Yeah, well, so what I was trying to think is, do we want to try to meet next week or in 2 weeks?
What would we do next week? What?
Well, just move everything further along. I'm not sure. Maybe there is no immediacy. I think we did make great progress today. Decisions were made. So one thing that we could keep moving forward on at Janet's recommendation is to try to develop just how we want to see, what we want to do at the forum format.
And maybe negotiating over size or cost of that commercial lot.
Right.
Yeah, that may come back.
Which probably going forward, you may want to think about doing an executive session rather than an open session.
Is everyone available next Monday? Can you give me
It is
the
town
date?
elections.
Next Monday?
That's
Tuesday, I would think.
Tuesday.
They're always Tuesdays.
Sorry.
Next Monday's the 4th.
4th of April?
No,
Okay.
March. I wish.
I opened the meeting saying it was the March 26th meeting, so
It's
I,
because it's warm, you get.
so March 4th. Is everyone available March 4th?
But
No.
don't let me stop the wheels of progress. I'll be away.
Okay. Oh, that, right. Let us set that as our next meeting.
4:30?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that concludes the meeting. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.